Let me know if this sounds familiar. You're looking to meet someone. Maybe you're looking to fall in love. Maybe you're looking for the whole 9 yards. So you think to yourself, you know what? I'll download some dating apps. It seems to be bloody impossible to meet someone these days in real life anyway, and it seems to be what everyone else is doing. So you do just that. You download the apps, you set up your profile, and you start swiping. But soon you become frustrated. Maybe you find it really hard to match with anyone at all. Maybe you match with hundreds of people. Regardless, eventually you do match with somebody and you send off your messages. So you make a move, you shoot your shot, you send your message, and maybe they reply. But maybe they don't. Maybe you exchange messages with someone for several days and then all of a sudden they're just gone. Or maybe you get to the point where you actually do meet them in real life and they're just not who you thought they were going to be. And then you're back to square one. Wouldn't you prefer to just meet someone naturally in real life? Let's talk about how you can do just that. Greetings and salutations, fellow human beings, and welcome to Luke on Life. We are just going to get straight into it. So today's topic is a really interesting one. It's one that I know a lot of people out there struggle with. I know that a lot of you will be struggling with it. That's probably why you're watching the video. Modern dating. How do we meet people these days? How do I find love? When I'm having this conversation with a friend or a colleague at work and I ask them, well, what are you doing to put yourself in a position where you can meet someone? You know, there's a lot of different answers to that question, and it is multifaceted, no doubt about it. But a lot of the time they will say, well, how else are you meant to meet someone than through the apps? And I just find it quite sad that the art and the romance of meeting people in real life seems to be lost, or seems to be on the way out anyway. I know that apps serve a purpose, and I know that they can facilitate meeting people. I know that there are loads of people out there, lots of people who'll be watching this maybe, who met their partner or their spouses through an app, and that's fantastic. But it does seem to me that a lot of people out there are really frustrated and the apps are dying a slow death. Because you know what, online dating does have its shortcomings. You know, connections seem to be much more difficult and harder to create on dating apps because everybody just seems to be so replaceable. You can be talking to someone and then you're dropped, ghosted in a second. A lot of the time, apps can create a false sense of importance, self-importance, inflated egos. And on the other side of that, apps can really damage people's self-esteem. It really does seem very difficult to create that one connection because there are so many options out there. It's a conveyor belt of people. I think people are looking for something that's real. They're looking to find a real connection because at the end of the day, that's hardwired into our DNA. You know, I've had a few spells of online dating myself. I've been on Tinder, I've been on Bumble. There was even a point where I was on Match.com. And for the OGs out there, who remembers eHarmony? By the way, that was not an admission that I was on eHarmony at one point. I fervently deny it. And you know, all of those gripes that I just mentioned, talking to someone for a few days, you think it's going really well, and then all of a sudden they're just gone. Or you meet up with someone and the connection's not right. Or you meet up with someone and they look nothing like their profile picture. I've been through those things and it really did get frustrating, and I think it really does start to wear you down, and it really does erode your hope that you'll ever find love. For me, nothing can beat the thrill, the buzz, the romance of just meeting someone naturally in real life. How great is it when you get that feeling of meeting someone new? You know, you take their number, you send them a text, you start exchanging messages, you start calling, one thing leads to another, and then you go on a date, and then you start to fall in love with them. How amazing is that? It's beautiful. And that is exactly how I met most of the women that I ended up in serious relationships with. So, how did I do it? More importantly, how can you do it? So the first way in this list of meeting someone naturally is through introduction. Okay, it's a little bit engineered, but it's still natural. Maybe you've got a mutual friend, maybe it's just a blind date. And you know what? Sometimes, a lot of the time, it just won't work. But when it does hit, it can be great. So this would be my first recommendations. Make it known to your friends that you are single. They'll know this anyway. And just put it out there. Ask them, do they know anyone that they think you might be suited with? Do they have any single friends that they think you'd hit it off with? This is a really fantastic way to meet someone. You know, there's so many benefits to it. Of course, number one, it's natural. And number two, and I think the most pertinent benefit of this, is that your friends know you. They should know you really well. So they will have some good idea or some idea as to whether you will be well suited to the person that they're thinking of setting you up with. The second way of meeting people naturally is through your hobbies. Do you have hobbies? Do you have pastimes that you really enjoy doing? Well, if the answer to that is yes, then I'd highly recommend that you look into joining some clubs or societies that actually arrange meetups. Now, aside from being a natural way of meeting people and ditching the apps, because that's what we're trying to do here, it has the added benefit of putting you in a situation where you meet people that share your interests. As you'll see from my background, I actually am an avid photographer. And because I love photography, I put myself in the situation where I could meet other photographers, whether that was through scheduled meetups or simply messaging people through Instagram, which I realize is an app, but I would say it's a little less contrived than something like Tinder. So my hobby of photography really allowed me to meet so many great people, and I look back on that period of my life where I was really into it, really fondly. Because as I say, I met so many like-minded people, and because we shared the love of photography, that gave us a starting point from which to build really good relationships. And there were one or two occasions where it was quite obvious that there was something between person A or person Y and myself, and one thing led to another. We got talking, we had that shared interest of photography, and what do you know, we started dating. That is a fantastic way of meeting somebody. You share that interest, you share that passion for something. You've got that starting point. The third way of meeting someone naturally is a little bit controversial. Some might say it's a definite no-no, but I think that it's actually a fantastic way of meeting someone as long as you do it correctly and you are mindful of boundaries. And that way is through the workplace. Now, this can be risky for several obvious reasons and lines can become blurred, but I think it is a fantastic way of meeting someone. You know what? We spend most of our waking lives at work, and it's inevitable that we are going to meet people that we have a romantic interest in. That's just a fact of life. However, it can create a conflict of interest, that is obvious. It can lead to some sticky situations such as favoritism, or when you eventually break up, if you do break up, it can cause some serious friction in that regard. But you know what? In my opinion, as long as you are mindful of professional boundaries, and I think if you can be as removed as possible from your immediate team, then go for it. Just be wary of professional boundaries. Understand that it is the workplace and your primary reason for being there is to work. But I'm not afraid or ashamed to admit that I've dated through the workplace. One of my more serious relationships was with someone through work, but we kept our work life separate from our personal life. We never let those lines blur. We kept it professional, and we were always wary of our professional responsibilities. So there you go. If there's someone at work that you fancy or that you want to approach, just be respectful, keep it professional, and go for it. The fourth way is what I call being a regular. What do I mean by that? Well, do you have any cafes or pubs or restaurants that you absolutely love going to? Is there a cafe that you stop by pretty much every day or every other day? If there is, great, you're already doing this, you're a regular. But if not, you might want to consider finding a nice cafe where you can sit down, have a coffee, do some work, maybe focus on your passions, read a book. Aside from the fact that you'll get that cheers factor where the staff start to know your name, everybody knows your name, and they know your order, which is a really nice thing. you'll soon start to realize that you're increasing the opportunity of meeting people. You might start to recognize that person that comes in every Wednesday or every Thursday. All of the time, you are increasing the opportunity of making friends, of meeting people, of starting relationships. And this is probably my number one tip, because it really does open up opportunity. The more that you put yourself out there, the higher the chances are that you'll meet someone. And you know what? This is actually how I met my fiance. It really does increase the chances that you'll meet someone cool and eventually hit it off. And the final way of meeting someone naturally that I'd like to recommend is simply being a badass. Be brave. You know, I get it. It's hard to approach people. It's really difficult to just go up to someone and say, you know what, you're pretty. Do you want to date me? I mean, that's really hard, right? But ultimately, I think that people do appreciate the direct approach. Obviously, there are ways to do it and there are ways not to do it. But if you've got the guts and you see someone that you like out and about, wherever it might be, on the street, in a cafe, like I said, at the bus stop, and you really like the look of them, just go for it. Go up to them, say hello, pay them a compliment. You never know where it might lead. What's the worst that can happen? As long as you're polite about it and you're not in their face and you're not disrupting their day too much, there's nothing wrong with that. There are good ways and bad ways to do this, and I do not profess to be someone that is an expert at this. It also depends on the receptiveness of the other person, whether you're coming across in a creepy manner or whether you're coming across in a nice, friendly way. But ultimately, who can be faulted for simply trying their luck? You never know. That person might just be your soulmate. In closing, I think it would be best to tell you what I think of dating apps and what my experience has been. I don't like dating apps. I think that they foster really negative attitudes and behaviors in people. I think there's a lot of replaceability. Everyone becomes very replaceable. It's like a conveyor belt of people. Swipe, 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 swipe. And I don't really like that. I think that it detracts from the beauty and the essence of finding love. But I've always really been someone that has ultimately wanted to meet someone naturally. I've always told my friends that one day I want to be able to tell my children or my child, if I'm ever blessed enough to have them, that I met their mum because I was simply going to a hotel every day and having a coffee and just doing my journaling, doing my editing. And then one day your mum walked in, and then the next day I had the courage to speak to her, and then the next day I took her number, and so on and so forth. I think that that's a nice story, instead of saying, oh, it's because I swiped right. So that's my personal opinion. I would love to hear what your opinions of modern dating are, what your opinions are of dating apps, what experiences you guys have had. And of course, as the title of the video suggests, and I'm sure everyone out there would like to hear if you've got any other suggestions as to how to meet people authentically and naturally in real life. So we are going to wrap things up now. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you guys about how to meet people authentically, how to find love naturally in the real world. If you'd like to know more about me and how this channel got started, because this is only episode 2 after all, then please, by all means, do click the video on screen. But for now, I will simply say goodbye, adieu, and I wish you all prosperity, happiness, and health. Bye.